Hi, today we're going to start working on our book, and you'll have all of next class to kind of get your project put together. We're going to finish up the last bit of this chapter. What words are necessary to tell a folk tale or a legend in Spanish is your essential question. Your homework is to create your puppets for your project or your interactive book or whatever it is that you're going to be doing, because you're going to have to present to the class, not next class, but the class after it. And make sure you bring something to be working on next class. First, let's go over your homework. Me aconsejo. You see how this is in the preterite? That means this has to be in the imperfect subjunctive. So fuera. Dijo, that's in the preterite. So this one is either, your two options here are conditional and subjunctive. So you're going to have to choose the conditional one. Here, we have habían despedido, which is a past tense verb. So we need to look for something up here that has something to do with past tense, which has got to be, ooh, no, it's not. Let me see why. We hear that they have lost many people. Oh, because this is a statement of fact. Okay, so escuchamos. They decían. It's imperfect. All right, since we have imperfect here, we look back here, we have a conditional and we have a past perfect. They said that an employee already has, okay, so había logrado. My dad, and we have quedara here, so since we have quedara in the imperfect subjunctive, we need a past tense verb up here, insistió. In activity 28, mi tía me dijo, or my aunt told me that she ear. Now, you might have something a little bit different here, but since this is preterite, I'm going to guess they have preterite back here. Yeah. Los niños dijeron, said that. Since this one is in preterite, we have two options. Either habían terminado or terminaron. Have, finished, or finished. Either one works. Ella quería, that's imperfect, que yo la acompañara. Imperfect goes with imperfect subjunctive. She wanted me to do it. There's a change of subject. And then down here, my mom told me, no, has asked me to clean my room, which I may or may not do. So we're going to put that in the imperfect subjunctive. Aplicación 2 is the next worksheet that we need to be working on in your packet. It says, read the conversation and answer the questions that follow. The truth is that I am against wars, says Alina. Fernando. I think that there are unfair wars, but there are others that are necessary to gain the independence or justice. Yes, if the victory has a pretty face, then they're not going to say a lot about the civil victims and the destruction that they have during wars. And Fernando's like, but brave people always have sacrificed for their country, and you have to remember that. And Alina's like, well, I understand your point of view, but hopefully someday they'll be able to get peace without losing a single life. So, is Alina in favor of the war? Of course she isn't. No, she's against the war. And does Fernando think that all wars are necessary? No, he thinks that some wars are necessary, though. That's not supposed to have an L there. According to Alina, what is the ugly face of war? The ugly face of war is the destruction that is left and the civil victims. And what does Fernando say that has happened with the brave people? The brave people have sacrificed for their countries. And what does Alina hope that they will get one day? She wants that one day they get peace without losing a single life. In Activity B, this is something you have to do on your own. It says you've been thinking about different types of war and the need for freedom and justice in the world throughout history. Write a letter explaining to a friend your point of view about the war and what has happened in the past. Use words from vocabulario and expressions from Exprésate in your letter. So, what are the things that are important here? First of all, we need to remember that it's a letter. So you need to have your dear Bob and your sincerely whoever. And then you have to have your point of view, so about war and what has happened. Has happened, that's telling you need past perfect. and your point of view is going to mean that you have to have some subjunctive in there. Then use words from vocabulario. So you have to have some vocab words and a few expressions from the expressate boxes in your letter. Just keep that in mind when you are writing. Next, we're going to work on the lectura. It says read the following paragraph about legendary origins of yerba mate. Then, write the main idea of the paragraph on the lines below. Okay, a little bit of back history on yerba mate. The mate or yerba mate plant, also known in English as mate, is a species of holly, and it's part of a really famous beverage that a lot of Hispanics actually drink, particularly in Argentina, Bolivia, southern Brazil, Uruguay, and Paraguay. So, the southern cone. It's not really an herb. It was cultivated by the Guarani and some of the Tupi communities in southern Brazil prior to European colonization. It was scientifically classified by the Swiss guy who settled in Paraguay in 1895. It grows into a tree. The leaves are evergreen. Flowers are small, greenish white. In beverages, they steep leaves kind of like a tea, and they put it in hot water rather than boiling water. Drinking with mate, which they'll put in a gourd and drink through a metal straw, is a social practice, so they do it together, kind of like, tea time in Europe. And it's supposed to be kind of tasty, but a little bit too bitter if you put it in the boiling water. And they sometimes put it with peppermint or orange or something like that. There are a lot of supposed health benefits for yerba mate, but let's start reading. It says the origin of yerba mate is attributed to different legendary gods. In one legend, Tupu, who is a good genie, went around the unknown country when he arrived at the house of a really old person, a poor old person. Because of his poverty, the old person didn't let the god enter his house, let him enter his house, even though he was poor, and he gave him something to eat and drink. To thank the old man, Tupu gave him the herb. In another legend, Yasi and Arai, which are Yasi is the Guarani word for moon, and Arai is the word for cloud, were attacked by a jaguar in the forest. They came upon a hunter to save them, and they gave him this herb as a prize. The third legend comes from the warrior Mate, who was resting one night when the goddess Suma came, and he gave him a green frog. No, a green the herb anyway. But he planted it. I guess it was like a cutling, and after he took the leaves off, and he made a delicious drink. So first we have to decide what the main idea is. The main idea is that there are various legends about the origin of yerba mate, and these legends have in common the idea of doing well or with being paid for a good deed. Read the statements and choose A for true or B for false, based on the reading. Nobody knows the truth about the origin of yerba mate. That's true. One legend says that an old person gave the herb to Tupu, the good genie. That's false. Another legend tells about Yasi and Arai, who gave the herb to a hunter. That's true. And according to the legend, Yasi and Arai called it Ka'a'a, which is also true. Who was Tupu, and what did he give to the old person? Tupu was a good genie, and he gave the yerba mate to the older person. Why did Yasai and Arai give the herb to a hunter? They gave it to the hunter in thanks for saving their lives. And what did the warlord Mate received from the goddess. He received the herb from the goddess. Writing. Maria's brother Sergio is in the army. She's very proud of him because she considers him a hero. Write a letter. So there is our format. A letter from Maria to Sergio asking about what his hopes, so that's subjunctive, were going into war and how his opinions have changed. Have changed means we need to have some past tense in here also. And use expressions from expressate. I can't help you with this. You got to do it on your own. Now, we're going to write a response from Maria to Sergio. That means we're also going to have to write another letter. Answering her questions and telling her about the realities of the ugly face of war. He does not consider himself special, but he is proud of being able to help the victims of the war. So there's a lot of vocabulary in here. He's proud. He doesn't consider the face of war, victims, and you're going to, again, use expressions from expressate. All right, once you're done with that, you can start working to get this part done. You'll have next class to finish up. Make sure that I have checked your script, and after next class, we will do our presentations. So again, after today, you will have one more day to work on it, and then it all needs to get turned in. Remember, finally, in the end, you need to turn in a full, finalized, printed out transcript of your folktale or legend. If you have Google Doc'd me and I have fixed it, you are good to go. Pictures of your puppets, or the puppets themselves if you don't want them. Now, a couple of you are not doing puppet shows. You're going to be reading to the class out of your big book. So that's something different for you. And the big book or web link to your interactive media. So either you're going to turn in your big book, or you're going to have a web link to your interactive book or your video or whatever it is you're creating. Let's go through this rubric one more time to make sure that we understand what we are supposed to do. Notice it says vocabulary, it says grammar, making few errors, your folktale is creative, and it has a modern take on an older story. Don't just give me an old story. Fluency, it's mostly fluent. When you go to present it, you've read through it a few times, you're good to go. Your puppets. Puppets are well made and creative. They are very well planned and serve their purpose well. They're not falling apart. In other words, that's if you are doing puppets. You could also substitute your interactive book thingy for this particular section. Make sure that what you're doing is good and your book is creative and put together well and it's not falling apart and a 5-year-old can play with it and not destroy it. Today you have a summary paragraph on Edmodo.